Yeah. So ozone therapy is actually a legal approved medical treatment in many countries, right? Just not in the US yet, but
It's
uh,
not approved in the US. The FDA doesn't want to approve it. In fact, we had an opportunity during COVID to get it approved by the FDA. A hospital in Florida applied for an IND, investigational new drug. And I was on their advisory committee. And we thought, oh my God, if there ever was a time for ozone, because people were dying in the ICU and there was no good conventional treatment for it. And they went to the FDA to get approval, and the FDA came back and said, oh, we want there to be animal studies first.
hmm,
Now, ozone's been in use in this country for 100 years. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of articles published on it. There is not a single reported death when properly used. And there have been some deaths reported, but they're crummy articles. They should have never been published.
hmm,
And it wasn't DIV either. Um, I think somebody died of a heart attack about 12 hours after getting ozone, so they blamed ozone for it. That's
hmm.
impossible. Um, the FDA scuttled it, and many Americans died as a result. So ozone's not approved, and our FDA, which is run by pharma, it's nothing more than the bully for pharma. It has a regulation saying that ozone is a poisonous gas with no known medical properties. This is on a regulation. This still exists in this country despite thousands of articles. My own article, Curing 5 Cases of Ebola, and several other articles that I published on ozone too. This is still there. Why won't this move? The reason why it won't move is if ozone ever got, quote, approved, pharma would be destroyed in several months because people would use it, hospitals would use it. You would see a collapse of deaths in hospitals due to infection, local infections, wounds, and other things. Because ozone you can treat wounds with, you can treat skin infections with, you can inject it anywhere. The only place you can't use ozone is by inhalation. It's very irritating to the lungs. So you don't want to breathe it. But you can take it every other way. You can put it in your ears. You can drink ozone water. We put ozone gas in the stomach of somebody with biliary cancer, and that patient did really well. Should have been dead in 2 weeks, lived over a year. You can put it in the bladder. I mentioned vaginally, rectally, intramuscular. You can use it every way, but you can even put it in the sinuses, but you can't breathe it. So is it approved? I'm not going to say it's really approved anywhere. It's allowed. And in our country, it's more up to the state medical board because the FDA doesn't have jurisdiction in your office. It's got jurisdiction over the movement of things across state and international lines. But you can adapt anything in your office to the good of your patients and then use it. And the FDA doesn't have jurisdiction there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not use the word approved. Now, you consider the word approved, though, then you have to consider that Vioxx was an approved drug and it killed 110,000 people in this country. And in my opinion, it was murder by pharma because they knew it was killing people and they still kept it on the market.
Yeah. Well, the ozone therapy, I understand that, yeah, in a lot of countries, it's freely used. And I've heard doctors actually treating patients with COVID and actually getting great results. So yeah, it is really unfortunate, but that's the same, it's the case for many new therapies
This is not a new therapy. This is a therapy that's been around as longer than pharma.
right. But I
Just
guess they call it natural therapies for many
yes.
natural therapies. Yeah, including stem cell therapy. When people hold FDA approval as if that's decree from God that will solve all problems, and it's really unfortunate. Then that's misinformed, just not being very informed about the state of healthcare. if a person wants to understand a little bit more about FDA approval, maybe watch the documentary called Bleeding Edge. It's about medical device approval. So just because it got FDA approval doesn't mean that's a fantastic therapy. And just because it doesn't have FDA approval doesn't mean that it's not good. So people, the sooner they come to understand this, the sooner that they can get the right therapies for themselves and their families. And us as doctors, even if we're conducting therapies that's not FDA approved per se, but what we operate under is the standard of care, right? The evidence-based medicine. So if we're able to give people treatment when there's evidence in the literature, ample evidence that it actually works, it saves lives, there's effectiveness, then we have a leg to stand on, right? That's what we're basing our therapies on.
And that's why I publish. I publish cases to get it into the literature so that you can use them to support what you do with oxidation.
Yeah. And as doctors, really our practice is governed by the medical board, right? Not by the FDA. The FDA, their role is to make sure drugs and therapies actually has the quality and property that they claim they have, but they don't regulate the practice of medicine. So people don't quite understand that, they don't have jurisdiction over how we practice medicine. And I think something like 70 to 80% of the drugs are used off-label. So they're used for purposes that are not approved by the FDA, but everybody's okay with that just because it has one approval. But there's a lot of double standards going on.